Uh, is my screen is visible to you? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So uh, this is the next point, polymorphism in C++. So this is again a useful feature. Already some partial part we covered in case of when we design the multiple constructor, that is nothing but the function overloading. And in unit 1 also we learn what is function overloading. So what is function overloading? The function names are same and the parameters are different, and y2 provide the such kind of function definitions, multiple function definition with the same name. So you are basically providing the multiple features to the simple single applications, right? So the way to achieve that feature may be available in a multiple directions, using multiple directions. So that is basically the um, function overloading. It's a polymorphism. So polymorphism, it's a Greek word. So it's a poly means it's a many, and the morphs means it's a many forms. It's a many forms. So many definitions are available. Just to wait. Okay. Now, so it's a basically polymorphism is a Greek word. Am I audible? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So it's a Greek word, and poly means many, and morphism means it's multiple forms. Okay. Now in real life example, the polymorphism in C++, how we can so see basically this is available in real life. So object oriented methodology is why it is included into the programming, because human is always interacts with the objects, and these features are very easily we can adopt, human can adopt, and that's why this is included into the programming. So in real life examples, suppose we want to compare. So look at, suppose we are in a classroom, that time we behave like a student, right? And if you go in a market, then you will behave like a customer. And suppose when you at your home, at that time you behave like a son or daughter, right? So here basically you are one entity, it's one person, but you have a different behaviors. It depends on the situation, right? So on at what situation is available, on that situation you behave like that, right? But your entity, your name is same, your entity is same, only whatever data you are passing at the time of customer, definitely you are purchasing something. If you are at a home, then you are enjoying, right? So that data is different, you are enjoying, you are purchasing. And when suppose you are in a uh, class, then you behaving like a student, so you are learning. So that data is different. So the three activities are there: the learning, you are purchasing, and you are enjoying. But this is for the same entity, right? So multiple features for the same. So this is just for an example. Another example, real-time example. Suppose you have a water bottle in front of you, and that water bottle is filled, that is with a half water. Okay, so is a 1 liter water bottle having a 50 ml water inside that. I suppose I ask you what you can say about this bottle. So some students will tell, sir, half bottle is empty. But some students will tell, sir, half bottle is already filled. So half water is available, some students will say, and half water is not available, some students will say. But the water bottle is the same. So that there the two behaviors are available. So it's a multiple forms. So it depends on how we look to the object, in what direction. So that facility should be available inside the programming. That means that type of all features you have to provide into the program. So why we have to provide it? Just to provide the multiple features. So it's a user usability. It's a user, just to improve the user efficiency, right? So for that we have to write the polymorphism. So polymorphism you can provide using two ways. Either you can go with the function overloading, or you can go with the function overriding. So we'll see one by one. So already I explained this. So types of polymorphism. Now most of the time, at the time of oral and interview, these questions are asked. So what is the types of polymorphism? So there you can go with like a static polymorphism and dynamic polymorphism. So what is the difference of static and dynamic? So this static and dynamic keyword again uh, came across at the time of when we are dealing with the data types, right? So compile time memory allocation and dynamic time memory allocation. So similarly, the function calls are also resolved at a compile time, and function calls are also resolved at a runtime. So on that basis, the static polymorphism and dynamic polymorphism is mentioned. So what is static polymorphism? So static polymorphism means it's early binding, you can say, or it's a compile time polymorphism. So at the time of compilation, the function call is already known. That means whatever the call is decided, which function we want to call, that call is decided at a compile time. It is static, and that will be executed as it is. So an object code, whatever function call is given after compilation, that function gets executed. But in a dynamic polymorphism or a runtime polymorphism, or you can say it's a late binding. In late binding, function call is not decided at a compile time. So function call is decided at a runtime. At a compile time, the your compiler having pointing to any another function, but at a runtime, exactly your function call decides. So in that case, if you want to perform the dynamic polymorphism, then virtual function is used in C++. So we will see at that time how the virtual keyword is used. And in a dynamic polymorphism, memory is allocated at a runtime, and both the function overloading and the operator overloading are the example of static polymorphism, and the virtual function is the example of dynamic polymorphism. So dynamic polymorphism having only in case of when you are going with upcasting. So what is upcasting also, that also I will tell you. Uh, First we concentrate on a static polymorphism. So function overloading. So function overloading, that functions are available in the same class with a different parameter but with the same name. So that is function overloading. Constructor overloading is also the example of function overloading. And it is a straightforward static polymorphism. It's an early binding, it's a compile time polymorphism. So there is no question about the runtime polymorphism for function overloading. Now what is operator overloading? That we will see in the next lecture, or maybe in next slide. So that is again a static polymorphism. The example of dynamic polymorphism is only in case of upcasting, and if you go with a virtual function, so that is the only scenario. So we'll go with the one by one. Now compile time polymorphism. The object bound to the function call at a compile time itself, and in a runtime, the object is bound to the function call only at a runtime. So look the example. The compile time polymorphism having the method or function overloading. This is the example. And method overriding also the example of compile time polymorphism. So method overriding in inheritance, if the function name and function signature is same in a parent class as well as in derived class, in that case the function overriding, it is known as function overriding. And overloading is the functions are available in same class, it is not in different class. In function overriding, functions are available in different classes, the parent class and derived class. So now we go with the first one, it's a function overloading. Look at function overloading example. The class addition is your suppose class. It's just for example. It's not a logically, you cannot say it's a logically correct example. It's just for example to just to clear about what is function overloading. So there are two methods are available. Void sum having two arguments, integer a and b, and cout a plus b is addition of two numbers are done here. Void sum, another function is available and having three arguments, integer a, b, c. So now void sum and void sum, the function name is same. Return type is also same. Now in this case, you can change the return type also, but the number of parameters are different. Here two in first case two parameters are there. In the second case, three parameters are there, right? And these two functions are available in same class in addition, because look, addition class is ended before main. So both functions have a same name with a different parameter list in the same class. So very important, it's in the same class. It's a function overloading. Multiple constructors are available inside the same class, right? It's a function overloading. In a main, now we are creating addition obj, right? Object we created. It's which constructor gets called in this case? Addition obj. Which constructor gets called? There is any constructor available inside the class? There is no any constructor. So which constructor gets called? Parameterless of user defined or compile defined. It's not user defined. It's a default constructor, right? At a compile time, whatever provided by compiler, correct? Now obj.sum 10, 20. Which function gets called? Sum. First one or second one? Definitely first one, because 10, 20 two parameters are available. So first one having two parameters, integer a comma b, right? That sum will get called. Whatever output is there, it will print. Again obj dot sum 10, 20 and 30 I passed. Which function gets called? Second one, right? Because 3 a b c is available. Now in this case, these function calls are resolved at a compile time because multiple definitions are available, and compiler will create the object code for that multiple definition because it is having unique features. First function sum having the two arguments, another having the three arguments. It's a function overloading. Simply the function call resolved at a compile time. There is no confusion. Object created, that is also compile time object. Addition obj, it is a compile time object. Memory allocated for object also at a compile time, correct? Yes, there is no pointer, there is no new operator. So it's straightforward object. So it's a static binding. Yes, it's a early binding. It's a compile time polymorphism. So, okay. Is there any doubt in this first one? Okay, so I switch to the next. Look, this example having obj sum call have function having the two parameters and having the three parameters. That is already I covered. So it's a 30 and 60. Now we go with the overriding. Again, another example of compile time polymorphism, static polymorphism. So what is method overriding? So method overriding is nothing but the function names are same with same method signature. So what is method signature? Method signature means function name, function return type, function number of parameters, and the sequence of parameters with respect to data types. So that is the function signature. So if the function signature or method signature is the same in case of parent class and derived class, in that case, it is known as method overriding or function overriding. So look the example. Now you have a class base class and you have another class derived class. Now this is the inheritance. How it is inheritance? Look, class derived colon public base. So one base class is available and one derived class is available. Correct? In a class base class, there is one function available, void show. Okay. Now return type of void show method is void. There is no any parameters in this case. You can type you can write a parameters also. Now base class having show function, derived class also having show function, right? Now in inheritance, base class copy gets passed to derived class. So how many show functions are available to the derived class? Two show functions, right? One which is coming from the base, another is from the derived class. But the use of show of base class function is different. The use of show of derived class function is different. So two show functions are available. Two are having different scenario. They are different uses. Okay, and both are important. So it's a method overriding. Now functions are available with the same method signature in a different classes in inheritance. It is known as method overriding or function overriding. Okay. Normally the question is asked like what is difference between function overloading and function overriding? So first common difference is function overloading is in same class. Function overriding is in different class. In function overloading, method name is only same. Other method parameter return type or argument list or arguments, number of arguments may be different. In method overriding, all must be same, but in a different classes. Okay, that's why there is no ambiguity. Now look, connecting the function call to the function body is called as binding. When it is done before the program is run, it is called as early binding or static binding or compile time binding. So in this case, now look, same example. In this case, base class having show method, derived class also having shown method. In a main, just check the main. Base B, base class object, and derived D is a derived class object. Suppose I call B dot show. B dot show. B is object of which class? Base class. So show method is called from which class? Definitely from base class. D dot show. What is a D? D is the object of derived class. And show is available in derived class. Yes. So D dot show call from the derived class. Yes. So in this example, we are calling the overridden function using the base class and derived class object. Base class object will call base version of the function and derived class object will call the derived class version of the function. So there is no any ambiguity because objects are separate. Function you can call separately, right? So it is a compile time. Why? Because objects are created at a compile time. There is no any problem. But when we use a base class pointer or a reference to hold the derived class object, then the function call or a binding gives the some unexpected result, right? Now, what is meaning of this? This is very important and little bit complicated. Let's do it. Now here, look, in a main method, concentrate on main method. Now I created a base class pointer. Base pointer B is a base class pointer, correct? And a derived class D object is created. It's a normal, it's not a pointer. It's a derived D. In inheritance, you can hold the object of derived class inside the reference of base class. So this thing is possible. It is known as upcasting. So what is upcasting? Upcasting means you are holding the object of derived class inside the reference of base class. So topmost class having the reference, it's a pointer, and you are holding the address of derived class. So you are pointing to the derived class. So actual object inside the base class pointer is for a derived class, correct? Now in this case, how you can store it? So B is equal to ampersand of D. So you are storing the address of D. Why? B is a pointer. So B can hold only the address. So B are holding the address of derived D, right? So D object is pointed now to using the B reference. So when the pointer is available here, so in that case, now it is example of upcasting. And in that case, when you call any function, you have to call with the arrow operator because it is not a compile time object. It is a dynamic object. Okay, so B arrow operator show. So B arrow operator show. Here it is called, and then which show gets called. So this is very important. So here also the show method gets called from your base class, but it is supposed to call from the derived class, right? Because actual object is available inside the base class pointer is for the derived class, but the show is now calling from the base class. So early binding, it is also early binding. It is a compile time binding. Suppose you want to call the show from the derived class. In that case, in this scenario, you have to use the virtual function. So here you have to use a virtual. Where we have to use a virtual? In a base class. In base class, whatever the show function is available, you write only the virtual keyword in front of the function. So virtual void show. So in this case, base class having virtual void show, and in normal derived class directly your show. So in this case, now the show is not called from the base class. It is called from the derived class. So it is the runtime polymorphism. It is not a compile time. Why you are writing there virtual? Because its virtual pointer gets created now. And if at the time of when you are doing upcasting, in that case, compile time function call is pointing to the base class show, but at a runtime it jumps to the base class show. Their virtual keyword is available. Now it decides we have to give a call to show from the derived class. Okay, and then it jumps to the show of derived class, and the show is called from the derived class. So it is a late binding, it is a dynamic binding, it is a runtime polymorphism. This is the only one scenario of the runtime polymorphism. Other all scenarios are for the compile time. All scenarios for the compile time. So here it is also the, in this example it is a compile time. If you want to go with a runtime, then you have to use a virtual function. Okay. Now I jump to the next point. It's operator. So what is operator overloading? So operator basically works on the variables, right? And that variables should be of a type primitive data type, like integer, double character. So logically plus minus, so that is your arithmetic operators will works. And suppose those operators, plus operator, minus operator, or whatever operators are available in your programming, though for those operators, suppose we want to uh, those operators we want to work on our user defined objects, our user defined variable of our user defined class. So how to do this? Like string. If string s1 plus s2, if I do it, what is s1 plus s2? S1 is a string, s2 is also string. When I do s1 plus s2, how it decides we have to append the string. Why it is not doing any type of addition? It's just appending the string, concatenating the string. Why? Because plus operator, meaning of that plus operator is changed for the string object. So in that case, you can change the meaning of existing operators on user defined objects. So the meaning of operator is already defined and fixed for basic type like a integer, float, double, etc. in C++ language, in for other languages also, right? For example, if you want to add the two integers, the plus operator is used. But user defined types like object, if we can want to work on the plus operator, so we have to redefine the that plus operator with the operator keyword. Okay, that is basically operator overloading. So you are writing the another definition of the operator. It's operator overloading. Multiple operator definitions are available in that case. Okay, now I will tell you. For example, there are two objects of a class contain string, that is plus, and that plus is used for concatenation. This feature of C++ programming that allows a programmer to redefine the meaning of operator when they operate on a class object is known as operator overloading. So suppose now why to go with operator overloading? Already plus having the meaning of that plus operator is used to do the addition of two numbers, right? And why we write our own definition for that, right? Now look here example in C++, whatever we can do by overloading an operator can be done without operator overloading. But operator overloading is used because it makes program more readable, as the operator which are used for basic data types can also be used for user defined data types. So in this case, consider the example of two numbers, and that numbers are nothing but a complex number. To achieve this, we can create a friend function named as add, and that adds a two complex number and return the result. So without friend function, friend function we will come back to this point later. Okay, so first we'll create without friend function. So what is this? C is equal to add C1 comma C2. What is C1? C1 is object of complex number. So complex is the class. Complex having real and imaginary. And C2 is also having an object of a complex class. Again, it's having a real and imaginary. C1 and C2 two numbers are available. I want to add the C1 plus C2. So C1 having real imaginary and C2 also having real imaginary. So how you will do the addition of complex number? Real plus real of C1 and C2, and imaginary plus imaginary of C1 plus C2, correct? And the result is stored in another complex number, that is your suppose C or C3. So C is equal to add C1 comma C2. In this way, you can give a function call. Suppose this function call is the older, it's a procedural approach, right? Suppose I want to make more readable this program. And suppose I do the function call like this at the last line. C1 is equal to C1 plus C2. In that case, how it looks? It looks good. It having some meaning. C1 plus C2 means it is doing the addition of C1 plus C2. So what is C1 plus C2? C1 plus C2 is it's the object of complex. And what is the procedure to adding a complex? It is available inside the definition. So plus operator is now here overloaded. So how it is overload? We have to write a definition for this. Okay. So look it. So it is a syntax of operator overloading. So look, the program to overload unary minus operator. So this is for minus. You have to write for n plus also. So for example, this is example. Integer a comma b is available. It's an input function and display function is available. And here void operator. Operator is now keyword. And after operator, now look at minus operator is given here. And the function definition, it's empty brackets. So there is no parameters available for this. And now what we are doing, a is equal to minus a, b is equal to minus b. That means a is equal to a minus 1, b is equal to b minus 1. So we are doing this in operator minus, correct? And then the function is displayed. So how you can call this operator? Look at in a main function. in a main example e dot input is taken and e dot display is taken. Minus e, look it, minus e. If I do it minus e, what exactly it do? After e dot display, minus e means, so basically it is given a call to operator minus this function. So you are not calling operator. Operator is a keyword. You are directly calling the operator using like this minus e. So minus e when you call, so this function gets called and a is decremented by 1 and b is also decremented by 1. So what is the value of display function now? A. Suppose I input, I give a 10 and 20. Now it's a and b having a 10 and 20 before minus. Now after minus, now it is a 9 and 19, correct? So you are changing the meaning of operator. So similarly, you can do it for the complex number, right? So the rule of operator overloading, you can overload all types of operator only except these operators: access operator, pointer access operator, that is the dot star, scope resolution operator, size of operator, and ternary operator. These operators you can't overload. Other operator, all operators you can overload: plus plus, minus minus, plus minus, multiplication, division, modulus. So all operators you can overload. Why to overload the operators? Using the operator overloading, you are improving the program readability. Okay, so like a string, best example is string concatenation. String concatenation is the best example. Using plus operator, you are concatenating the two strings. Is it okay? So today we covered the composition